Today's story will show you exactly what a truly bad mother-in-law looks like. For privacy reasons, I'm changing the names. My client is Emily, and the first thing she said when she sat down in front of me was, "When I was pregnant, my mother-in-law looked me in the face and told me I did not deserve to be a mother." That got my attention immediately, because once a woman can say something like that to a first-time mother, I already know what kind of person she is. Emily had a 4-month-old son at home. She looked tired in that quiet, worn-down way new mothers sometimes do. Not messy, not dramatic. Just thin around the edges, like too much had been pressing on her for too long. Then she looked down at her hands and said, very quietly, "The worst part is that she didn't start there. She started small." That was exactly the right way to tell it. Because women like Linda never start with the ugliest line first. They start with help. They start with concern. They start with experience. Emily and her husband Ryan had just found out she was pregnant with their first baby. They were happy. Nervous too, obviously, but happy. The kind of happy that comes with panic attached. Emily said Ryan stared at the positive test like it might suddenly turn into a joke if he looked at it long enough. Then he laughed. Then she laughed. They started telling family. Everybody was excited. And when they told Ryan's mother, Linda, she seemed especially thrilled. Emily said Linda hugged her, smiled, and immediately started talking about how important it was for a first-time mother to have support. At first, Emily was relieved. She was already nauseous, already exhausted, already emotional in that raw way pregnancy brings, where your body suddenly belongs to 1,000 new rules and nobody hands you a clean map. So when Linda offered to stay for a while and make things easier, Emily let her. Ryan did too. He was new to all of this too, and his mother sounded certain that was enough. So Linda came in. And once she was in, she did not act like a guest. She acted like somebody stepping into a place she had already decided. Emily did not know how to run. Emily said it started with food. That made perfect sense to me. Because pregnancy already makes food emotional. Sometimes you are starving. Sometimes everything makes you sick. Sometimes the only thing in the world you can manage is one weird specific snack. And if somebody gets between you and that snack, it feels personal. Linda turned all of that into another place to judge her. One morning, Emily was in the kitchen eating crackers, because they were one of the only things not making her sick, and Linda appeared in the doorway, looked at the box in her hand, and said, "You need to start thinking like a mother now, not like a little girl trying to satisfy a craving." The second Emily repeated that line to me, I knew exactly what kind of woman Linda was. Not helpful, not overprotective, cruel in a polished, controlled way. Emily said she just stood there holding the crackers, suddenly embarrassed, like she had been caught doing something shameful, instead of trying not to throw up. And that was only the beginning. If Emily reached for coffee, Linda looked at the mug before she looked at her. If Emily said it's only half a cup, Linda would answer, "A mother doesn't bargain with what could hurt her baby." If Emily opened the fridge twice in 1 hour, Linda would ask, "Are you actually hungry, or are you just giving in again?" If Emily said she wanted fries, Linda would say, "That baby doesn't need your impulses, it needs discipline." My jaw tightened at that, because do you hear what that does? A craving becomes selfishness. Hunger becomes immaturity. One totally normal pregnant moment becomes proof that you are already failing. Emily said that after a while, she started feeling tense every time she got hungry. Then she said something that really stayed with me. I started opening my own fridge like I was doing something wrong. I understood that immediately. Because once a woman starts feeling like a thief in her own kitchen, the problem is no longer advice. The problem is control. And Linda did not stop at food. She had opinions about everything Emily touched. Soap, shampoo, face wash, lotion, laundry detergent. If Emily picked up a bottle of anything, Linda wanted to know whether she had checked the ingredients properly. If Emily said yes, Linda would give her that patient little smile and say, "Research is not the same thing as judgment." If Emily said her doctor said it was fine, Linda would answer, "Doctors don't live in your house. I do." That line told me plenty too. Linda did not want input. She wanted authority. Emily said one afternoon she ordered a sandwich because it was the only thing that had sounded edible all day, and Linda looked at it, pinched one slice of bread between 2 fingers like it was evidence in a trial, and said, "This is how women lose control in pregnancy. First it's food, then it's everything else." Emily told me she got so uncomfortable she stopped eating halfway through. That hit me too. Not because of the sandwich, because by then, Linda could make her feel guilty for something as basic as lunch. Then came all the little comments that never sounded huge by themselves, but never really left her alone either. If Emily slept late after a rough night, Linda called it laziness. If Emily cried too easily, Linda called it instability. If Emily forgot one vitamin one morning, Linda said, "And this is exactly why babies need mothers who are more prepared than this." That word kept coming up. Mothers. Not women. Not people. Mothers. Linda kept using it like Emily had not earned it yet. That was what made the whole thing so ugly. She was not just correcting her. She was quietly separating Emily from the role itself. A real mother would know better. A real mother would be stronger. A real mother would not need this much guidance. I asked Emily what Ryan said while all this was happening. She gave me one tired little smile and said, "He kept saying she was just trying to help." That tracked. He was a first-time dad. He was nervous too. His mother sounded confident. From the outside, a lot of what she did still looked like involvement. That was what made Linda so hard to fight in the beginning. She did not come in screaming. She came in sounding certain. But inside the house, according to Emily, nothing about her felt calming. It felt like being watched. She said she stopped doing normal things comfortably in front of Linda, eating, resting, buying things, looking something up on her phone, even sitting down too long without feeling guilty, because anything could turn into a comment, and every comment somehow carried the same message underneath it. You do not know what you're doing, and worse, you may not be the kind of woman who ever will. Emily looked down at her hand while I worked, and said quietly, "By the end of those first few weeks, I felt nervous doing normal things in front of her." That landed hard. Because that is how this kind of damage starts. Not with one giant scene, with 100 small humiliations that teach a woman to hesitate before she even touches her own life. And Linda, by then, was only getting started. Once Linda realized she could control the mood inside the house, things got worse fast. By then, eating was already tense. Resting was tense. Even asking normal questions had started to feel risky. Emily told me Linda had one phrase she loved: the nervous type. If Emily asked too many questions, she was the nervous type. If she cried too easily, she was the nervous type. If she got overwhelmed, or tired, or second-guessed herself for 5 minutes, Linda would sigh and say, "That's exactly what worries me. You're the nervous type." That kind of phrase gets under your skin fast, because after a while, it stops sounding like one woman's opinion. It starts sounding like a diagnosis. Emily said one night she had been up half the night throwing up, finally fell asleep sometime after 4 in the morning, and woke up late. Not scandalously late, just later than Linda thought was acceptable. Linda was already in the kitchen when Emily came downstairs. According to Emily, Linda looked at the clock before she looked at her. Then Linda said, "If pregnancy is already this hard for you, I don't know what you're going to do when there's an actual baby depending on you." Emily said she was so tired in that moment she could barely think straight. She just muttered, "I was sick all night." Linda looked at her and said, "Mothers don't get to fall apart every time they feel unwell." Emily told me that was the first time she cried in the bathroom with the door locked. Not because she was dramatic, because she did not want Linda to hear her. Then it started happening in front of Ryan too. Emily said one of the moments that really stayed with her happened after a doctor's appointment. Nothing was wrong. The baby was fine. She was fine. She was just tired and trying to remember everything the doctor had said. When she got home, Ryan asked how the appointment went. Before Emily could answer properly, Linda cut in and said, "She forgot half of what the doctor said before we even got back in the car." Emily said she looked up so fast she actually hurt her neck, because first of all, it wasn't true. And second, even if she had forgotten something, who says that like that? Right there, in front of her husband. Emily said she tried to explain that she had written everything down in her phone. Linda just smiled and said, "I know you mean well. I'm just not sure that means much with a baby." That was disgusting. Not loud, not messy, just smooth enough to pass as concern, if you were not the one getting cut by it. Ryan said, "Mom, don't." But Emily told me he said it in that soft, embarrassed way that does not actually stop anything. And Linda kept going. Emily told me that one night, while she was sitting on the couch rubbing her stomach, she admitted to Ryan that she was scared she would not know what to do once the baby actually came, which is such a normal first-time mother thing to say. Before Ryan could answer, Linda looked at her and said, "Then you better pray he gets your husband's calm and not whatever this is." Whatever this is. That line is filthy, because it lets a woman insult you without saying the ugliest word out loud. Emily said she went completely quiet after that. Later that night, Ryan asked her what was wrong, and when she told him, he said she didn't mean it like that. Emily looked at me when she repeated that, and I could see exactly how much that still hurt, because she did not need him to translate his mother for her. She needed him to hear it, and he still wasn't hearing it. According to Emily, that was when things started shifting inside her. She was not just angry anymore, she was becoming unsure. That is worse. She started second-guessing normal things, standing in the nursery too long, wondering if she had put things in the wrong place, reading the same article 3 times, and still feeling stupid, making one small decision, then hearing Linda's voice in her head before Linda even walked into the room. That is how deeply a person like that gets in. Then came the moment that cracked something in Emily for real, and it was over almost nothing. She forgot one prenatal vitamin one morning. One. Not every day. Not for a week. One. That night, Linda picked up the bottle from the counter, looked at it, counted the pills, and said in front of Ryan, "And this is exactly why babies need mothers who can think beyond themselves." Emily said she just stared at her, then stared at Ryan, then stared back at Linda, because one missed vitamin had somehow become proof that she was selfish. She tried to say, "It was one pill." Linda did not move. She just looked at her and said, "Good mothers don't forget the baby because they're tired, emotional, or distracted." That was the line that really did damage. Because do you hear how final that sounds? Not try to remember next time. Not set an alarm. Not do you want help. Good mothers don't forget. Meaning if you did forget, even once, maybe that says something permanent about what kind of mother you are. Emily said her whole face burned. And the worst part was that Ryan still did not fully get it. He told his mother, "Mom, that's enough." But later, when Emily cried in their room, he sat beside her and said, "She's just intense about the baby." Emily told me she looked at him and said, "No, she's intense about me not being enough for the baby." There it was. Not that Linda cared too much. Not that she was old school. Not that she had strong opinions. She was not trying to make Emily a better mother. She was trying to make Emily feel like motherhood belonged more naturally to someone like Linda than it ever would to her. Emily looked down at her hand and said quietly, "That was when I stopped feeling corrected and started feeling measured." That stayed with me. Because once a woman starts feeling measured in her own home, she already knows she is being set up to come up short. Once the baby was born, Linda got exactly what she wanted. More access, more excuses, more chances to stand over Emily and act like every uncertain moment was proof she never should have been trusted with motherhood in the first place. Emily told me the worst night came when the baby was barely 2 weeks old. He had been crying forever. Not one of those short little newborn fusses, not 10 minutes. A long, raw stretch of crying that made the whole house feel frayed at the edges. Emily was in the living room holding him, Ryan was in the kitchen warming a bottle, and Linda was watching. Emily said that was the part she had started dreading most by then, not even the talking first, the watching. That cold, steady way Linda stood there like she was observing a failure unfold in real time. Emily bounced the baby, shifted him against her shoulder, tried patting his back, tried walking, tried the soft shushing voice mothers use when they are already halfway to tears themselves. And Linda just stood there with her arms folded. Then Linda said, in that calm, poisonous voice of hers, "Hor and tuikil." Harb wouldn't be this unsettled if he felt safer with his mother. I went completely still when Emily told me that, because that is venom, not concern, not advice, venom. Emily said she actually froze with the baby still in her arms, because what do you even say when a woman looks at you holding your screaming newborn and decides that is the perfect moment to suggest your child already feels unsafe with you? Nothing kind. That's for damn sure. Emily told me she started crying right there. Not graceful crying, not pretty tears, that exhausted, humiliated kind of crying that comes when your body just gives up pretending it can take one more hit. And Linda did not stop. She looked at Emily and said, "You see, this is exactly what I mean. Babies need calm mothers, not mothers who fall apart." That was the moment Ryan finally heard it, really heard it. Not "my mom is intense," not "she means well," not "this is just how she talks." He heard the contempt. Emily said he turned around so fast she still remembers the look on his face. Not embarrassment, not discomfort, anger, real anger. He looked at his mother and said, "No, stop talking." Emily said Linda actually blinked. Then she tried to dress her cruelty back up as help. "I'm trying to protect the baby," she said. "Somebody has to say what no one else wants to say." And then she looked straight at Emily and said, "Fine, then I'll say it. You are not fit to be a mother if this is how you handle one crying baby." There it was. Ugly, plain, no softness left. No concern left, no mask left, just the rotten thing itself. Emily said the room went dead after that. Ryan stared at his mother like he did not recognize her anymore and said, "No, what's happening here is that my wife is exhausted, healing, learning and doing everything she can while you stand there tearing her apart." That was sharp enough to make me sit up, because finally somebody in that house said the true thing out loud. Linda opened her mouth again, probably to twist it back into concern, and Ryan cut her off before she could. He said, "You do not get to keep humiliating her and call it help." Good. That was exactly the right word. Not criticize, not upset, humiliate. Then he kept going. "You do not get to make every normal mistake sound like proof she should never have become a mother. And you do not get to stand in my house and tell the mother of my son she isn't fit to be his mother." Emily told me she started crying harder after that, which made perfect sense, because sometimes you can survive cruelty for a while. What breaks you open is hearing somebody finally call it cruelty. Linda made one last attempt. She said, "I raised you, didn't I? And you turned out fine." Please. That line is filthy, as if dragging one son into adulthood gives a woman the right to emotionally gut another woman in postpartum. Ryan looked at her, disgusted now, and said, "You raised me to think this sounded normal. That's not the same as doing it right." Oh, I liked that one, because it wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. It was just cold enough to go where it needed to go. Emily said Linda went still after that. Then she did something that made my jaw tighten all over again. She reached for the baby, not dramatically, not like some movie villain. Just with that smooth little motion she had used 100 times before, like obviously she should be the one taking over now.
Ryan stepped in first. Emily told me his voice was quieter then, which somehow made it hit even harder. He said, "No, you need to leave, tonight." That was it. It was simpler than that. A husband finally drew a line around his wife and child and did not let his mother step through it. Emily said Linda stared at Ryan like she did not recognize him anymore. According to Emily, Linda started crying then, not because she felt sorry, because control had slipped. She said nobody appreciated her. Nobody respected her experience. Nobody understood that she was only trying to keep the baby safe. Ryan did not argue. He did not comfort her either. He packed her bag himself. Emily said she sat on the couch holding the baby while it happened, crying so hard she could barely breathe, and for the first time in weeks nobody was reaching into her arms to correct how she held her own child. That detail hit me in the chest. Because do you understand how bad it has to be for a woman to feel relief in the middle of a disaster just because nobody is touching her baby out of her hands anymore? After Linda left, Emily said the house felt strange. Not peaceful exactly. More like the air had finally stopped bracing for impact. Ryan sat beside her on the couch. The baby was asleep by then. Emily said he looked sick, like a man who had just realized how long he had been letting something rotten live in the middle of his home. And he said, "I'm sorry I kept making you explain pain I should have already been able to see." That was a good line, because it was not one of those weak apologies people give when they still want credit for meaning well. He got it. Late, yes, but he got it. Emily told me she looked at him and said, "She made me feel like every normal thing I didn't know yet meant I didn't deserve him." Ryan looked wrecked and asked her what she needed. And for the first time in months she answered honestly. She said, "I need her out of my house. I need to stop feeling watched. And I need help that doesn't humiliate me." For once Ryan did not hesitate. He agreed right away. He called a postpartum doula 2 days later. Not his mother in a different sweater. Actual help. The kind that teaches without shaming. The kind that steadies a woman instead of measuring her. Emily said she cried the day the doula came for the first time. Not because anything bad had happened. Because the woman showed her how to soothe the baby. Helped her with feeding. And at one point looked at her and said, "You're doing better than you think." Emily said that was the moment she cried. And honestly, I understood exactly why. Postpartum women do not need judges. They do not need control freaks with martyr complexes. And they definitely do not need some bitter older woman using a newborn as an excuse to act out her need for power. They need time, sleep, grace, real help, and people around them who do not treat uncertainty like a moral defect. Before Emily left, she looked down at her nails and said, "The crazy part is, I still hear her in my head sometimes. I believe that immediately." Emily said, "Sometimes I'll forget something small, and I still hear her voice saying good mothers don't forget." That was vicious enough to linger, because that is how deep this kind of damage goes. Not into one night, into the mother, into the way she hears herself afterward. Then Emily looked up at me and said, "I'm getting better now. I think I am. Especially since Ryan finally sees it. But there are days I still have to remind myself that learning is not the same thing as failing." And honestly, that was the line that stayed with me. Not even the fight. That line. Because I think a lot of women need to hear it. Especially women becoming mothers for the first time while somebody louder, older and crueler keeps acting like uncertainty is proof they do not belong there. So tell me this. If someone keeps hurting a new mother in the name of help, what would you even call that? Because to me that is not help. That is harm.